Hello folks, this is Paul here from Long Branch Never, bringing you the introductory episode of the channel Long Branch Never. Wanted to take a few minutes and give you a high-level overview of what I'm planning to do with the channel and what to expect moving forward. So the first thing that I'm looking to do is use this channel as a kind of a creative outlet and platform to demonstrate some of the projects I've been working on and continuing to develop for the retro community. And in particular, it's for the TRS-80 Color Computer. I do have my hands in quite a bit of other retro platforms, and future episodes may exhibit some of that content, but for the near future, topics will deal mainly with the TRS-80. Also looking to use this as a potential learning tool for others in the community, more so through my own experiences in getting started in some of these areas. I feel as though others in the community are in similar position that I found myself not too long ago. So I'm hoping I can use those experiences to make the ease of entry more accessible to others. So what are some of the projects I've been working on? I know a few people in the community have already seen brief glimpses of this, but I have a set of floppy disk tools that I've been working on for the color computer. What started out as a single tool for just being able to explore disk images is now a set of tools which I developed more out of necessity than anything else. I had started to code this for my own purposes and never really thought that it would grow into much less having a potential bigger utilization for the community. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could organize and sort through literally thousands of disk images that I had started to collect since the mid-90s, way back in the Jeff Vavasor days of his emulator. So I didn't have a real easy way to view or search content, determine what was duplicate data, disks, or files. The only way that I was really able to do that was manually mounting disk images in the emulators or grepping through all the disparate content. It was very difficult to do at best. So I had some basic functionality back in the 2007 to 2009 timeframe, but it was far from a completed project. I soon abandoned it because life happens. So fast forward to the weeks leading up to Tandy Assembly, I had signed up for an exhibitors table because I had heard that was the thing to do. Setting up basically a home base, bring some gear with you, sit and relax, that sort of thing. So when I was asked what I would be showing at the event, it occurred to me that I hadn't thought that far ahead. I panicked a little bit, but then decided to dig out my disk tools project and see how much further I could get done in the month leading up to the assembly. So just as a quick high-level overview, and I'll be covering more content on this in future episodes, it's just basically a set of disk tools. Right now I've got a catalog, viewer, search tool, an explorer view for disk images, and a viewer for looking at files more closely. So just to give you a kind of a sense as to what it can do, you can come in, take a look through your disk tree here, grab a disk image, and it'll give you a directory listing over on this side. Down here, don't really have functionality working yet for the catalog function. Look for that in future updates. But you can come in and you can take a look at some of the binary and Cocoa hex font here. You can actually take a look at some of the graphics. There it shows you some of the graphic content as well. And if we wanted to take a deeper dive into it, we could actually load the disk into the disk editor, Explorer view. And over here you can, in this view, you can go to the directory and take a look at that. You can go sector by sector, taking a look at the directory. You can take a look at the FAT table. If you want to take a look at the files a little bit closer, you can double click on those there. In this top left hand window, it'll show you a binary dump, hex dump of it. This window here does a disassemble of binary code. For basic files, it'll do a detokenization of the basic. Right now it's just doing TRS-80 Color Computer, no dragon functionality yet. I know the tokenization's a little bit different, but we'll look for that in upcoming releases of the tools. And then it'll also do, let's take a look at one of these graphic files here. You can double click on that, come down and select Cocoa graphics mode. Right now it's non-artifacting, just black and white, and you can select artifact colors, do a stretch on it, and take a view at content like that. So that's basically it in a nutshell for the floppy disk tools. There will be additional episodes which cover this more in depth, so stay tuned on that. I did receive a lot of positive feedback at the event, and like I said, I've been continuing to do brief spurts of coding I'm close to an alpha release for some folks in the community to test, and I'm hoping within the next couple weeks we'll be able to get some folks going with it. So look for progress on the project as well as how to use the tools in upcoming episodes. So one of the other ideas I had come up with the few weeks I had left leading into Tandy assembly preparations was to challenge myself into writing a game in 6809 assembler. Up until that point, I really hadn't done a whole lot with assembly coding on the 6809 or Color Computer. More or less, it was writing some subroutines, a few dozen lines or so, for speeding up some of my basic programs, but nothing more than that. So what I ended up doing was putting together this crude concept of a game that I had brought to Tandy Assembly, and it was functioning at that time, and I showed it to a few folks, but I didn't really make a big deal of it, more so because I hadn't finished the game at that point, but more importantly because it was more of a personal challenge to myself to see if I could actually do it. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick and give you a sense as to... And I've worked on it since Tandy Assembly, so... but anyways, here's what it looks like. Presented for Tandy Assembly, October 7th and 8th, Chillicothe, Ohio. Little bit of 4-voice music. And we've got a star field scrolling in the background, and we'll go ahead and get into some gameplay. It is Coco 1 and 2 and 3 compatible. We'll select RGB because I've got a Coco 3 emulator going here. We're running VCC, and we'll try nuts. Shows that we're starting wave 1. Basically all it is I've got this ship down at the bottom that I move back and forth, and I try to shoot the ships that are coming down. We've got red and yellow, really no difference between the two as far as difficulty, but they do show different score values in the scoreboard. I've got a fuel counter up in the upper left here. As you fire shots, it does consume fuel. And the other thing that will happen is if you let the enemy ships get past you, they will steal some of your fuel. Shows you... hang on, we'll wait for wave 2 to start. I've actually got it on accelerated gameplay because I'm still doing a little bit of debugging with it, but that's why the waves are coming so quickly. But as you can see, they're dropping a lot faster now, and they will get really fast in a second as we get into the later waves. Up in the middle, it shows how many lives I have left, and then scoreboard upper right. Fuel drops occasionally that you can replenish your fuel supply. You got to be careful. You can accidentally shoot your fuel, which you don't want to do. Wave 3, and you'll see how fast these guys get going. And that's why this level's nuts. It's impossible to keep up with. Yeah, he hit me. I don't really have a grandiose explosion there. But it's a crude game. It's functional, though. It does demonstrate some of the capabilities of what you can do in 6809 assembly code. I've got a scoreboard. I've got a fuel counter. I've got ships moving. I've got a star field scrolling in the background. It's text. It's if you haven't guessed by now, it's semi-graphics 4 mode or the text screen, and there we go. Game over. So that's it in a nutshell. We won't play again, and we'll exit out of that. So like I said, it's a game in the loosest sense of the words. I've never really been much of a game designer, definitely much more on the utility side of things, and made some recent additions, so it is functional. It is a complete game. So rather than have it as something that I'm going to release to the community, I will release the code and the game if people want it. I decided to turn it into a tutorial on how to get started in 6809 assembly language coding for the Color Computer. And doing so more so because I feel that not too long ago, I was in a similar position that a lot of folks find themselves now in the community. So we'll see how this goes, and I hope it's of value to folks. So with that in mind, I just wanted to let folks know what they should expect coming through this series of tutorials, and also, more importantly, what they shouldn't expect as they work through these exercises and tutorials. So just want to remind folks, first and foremost, this was my first effort at writing an assembly language game on the 6809. And I had seen on Facebook and Discord, as well as hearing some feedback from Coco Talk Live and the Coco Crew podcast. Many folks looking for info on how to get started in assembly language programming and what you need to do to get started. I was one of these folks not too long ago, and while I had used Edtasm as an editor back in the day, I knew there was no way that I was going to have the patience or time to use it as a single source development platform today. And I had been hearing people talking about cross compilers, and I had never really played around with them up until this point where I was trying to get started on the game. So the other thing that I'm looking to do with this is hoping to inspire folks, showing them what the ease of access is to assembly language programming. It's much easier than you would think. And I know that's, you're hearing that all the time, but hopefully this video series will show you that. So I want to see folks that have never done assembly language programming or that have had it on their to-do list actually get started. And I consider if I only manage to inspire one individual to get started with this and actually be successful, then this effort is a success for me. So getting on to what this tutorial is not and what you should not expect coming out of this. Do want to remind folks, I am by no means an expert on assembly language programming on the 6809. I do quite a bit on embedded systems and other platforms, but on the 6809, again, for game development, not an expert. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert either. There's several individuals in the community who will run circles around me in this area, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of feedback on my code, my techniques, and my writing style. It wouldn't be the community I know and love if these feedbacks didn't exist. So I really encourage that. And here, I'll just show you some of the code right here real quick. I have it pretty well formatted and documented. There's some comments, but I've got to go through and backfill some of that. I've been working on it recently, so I have pretty good working knowledge of everything that's going on and remember everything I did and why I did it. So as I go through and build these tutorials, I'll make sure that this is well documented for folks. So getting back to the feedback, I definitely welcome it and encourage those who have more experience to provide comments, suggestions, and recommendations on how to improve the coding style, the development techniques, and any of the algorithms that I use. But one thing that I really do expect and that I ask of you is keep it constructive and be respectful. Not so much of mine, I can handle it, any type of feedback you throw me, but more so the suggestions that you might hear from others in the community. I'm hoping these feedbacks will ultimately serve as the mechanism to build the community and help us all improve in our projects and future endeavors. And then lastly, wanted to let folks know this won't be a primer for writing the next Donkey Kong or Pac-Man or Zaxxon clone. I consider the content here to be 101 at best. It's going to cover some of the basics, but it's not going to make you an expert in 6809 coding. It's going to take a lot of hard work and time and patience on your part to really learn the hardware, understand the architecture, the memory map, and it's takes some practice to get to the point of becoming an expert. I'm hoping to get there myself at some point, and more importantly, I'm hoping that you become passionate enough that you do as well. So that's pretty much about it for this episode. I'm hoping in the future to at least do an episode a week. We'll see if we can sneak 2 in there. That's probably a lofty goal, never having done this before. And we'll see what happens, what kind of pace I can keep, because, as all of us know, real life often gets to be the priority as much as we love doing this. And that's why I'm doing this, is I absolutely love it. But, real life does happen. And just wanted to say thanks for stopping by and checking things out. And stay tuned for future episodes. Take care.